suppose it's more Tyler's thing is to host.
Well, it's Tyler's thing is the host, because he actually knows what he's fucking doing.
Maybe.
But regardless, I am here, and we have watched a shitload of Kino's journey.
Yeah.
And I have dragged you into this.
Well, some of us more so than others, because I haven't necessarily shirked my duties, but I've done less than either of you.
Well, Matthew, I must praise you for, like, you have, like, dedicated yourself to this. Like, I thought, like, you two would just, like, watch 2 episodes of each and say, I'm done.
Oh, I did more than that.
And you guys went, like, especially you, Matthew, you guys went above and fucking beyond for, like, this crazy little passion project of mine, and I thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean... well, I watched, I think, up to episode 5 of the original.
Yep.
Because I liked it. and I watched, I think, up to episode 3 of the new one. Because I liked episode 1.
Well,
it's generally competent.
If we want to get into like it initially, I think there was like a. I don't think the new show was just a complete like all-encompassing train wreck occurring at slow motion. I think there are episodes in it that do work. But there are also episodes that are just, like, irredeemable and awful. And those outnumber the good ones.
Yeah, I made a point of seeing the schlock.
Yeah, well, like, and I'm worried about that because, like, you got, like, the big, like, smorgasbord, and you know the bell curves of this thing. Whereas, I worry that, because you saw the 2 worst episodes.
Yeah, I saw episode 2. And then
one of the worst.
I watched episode 8 shortly before I came.
The worst.
Yes, which is awful. I don't know. I'm not sure if episode 2 is better.
Well, we'll get to that. Like, I kind of just want to begin with like because like I think this is one of the more important things because watching this new abomination has allowed me to kind of venture forth and realize like, oh wait, this is why the old show is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, I guess, like, just based off of, like, it as, like, an independent piece of media that y'all had to watch, what do you think of the old show? I'm prepared for anything at this point, though I already kind of know your opinions.
But, no, I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we already know our opinion is of the new one,
yeah.
But the old one, the old one's really charming.
Okay, yeah,
it's got a lot of charm
yeah, well...
It's not perfect, but it's got a lot of charm.
Well, what are your issues with it? And, like, we can kind of, like, use that as, like, base as for, like, what might be issues with new show as well.
What, the issues of the new one?
Well, we're gonna get to that nonsense.
The old one.
Kind of old one. Like, what are your, like, general issues? Because, like, I'm gonna, like, blow my load and, like...
Oh, of course.
and, like, trying to defend it.
This is a trap, and I can see the leaves over the
No, it's okay. Like, there's spikes down there, but there's also puppies and, like, friendliness.
I know there's friends down there, but there's also spikes. There's spikes, rats, and cotton candy and fun.
Naturally.
Yes.
But what are your issues with it?
Well, my first issue is people seem to really be, like, they'll see, oh yes, people are getting lobotomies, and they're like, okay. Or, oh, we're building this big-ass tower. Yeah. Why? I don't know. Who gives a shit?
Well, like...
Nobody cares!
Well, here's the thing about it is that, like, I would, like... that's just kind of, like, the plot of the... If, like, you get to this and, like, you ask yourself, like... Why are these countries, like, so isolated and not know about each other?
Oh, I know.
Why are they building a stupid fucking, like, big... I think if you can't get past that point, I really don't know what to tell you.
Oh.
Because, like, the kind of point of the show is kind of, like, a way to, like... It's not really about, like, building believable worlds. Like, it's not... It's a world-building exercise, but it's also a very surreal world-building exercise. Because it's about, like, presenting you worlds, and the people in them are kind of just, like, these distillations... of kind of, like, mass behavior that we see. Like, I recently watched episode 3, which is what you walked into me seeing. And, like, in that, like, there's a country that, like, deposed their king, and, like, they figured out, like, oh, wait, we don't have any traditions. So, like, what they do is that anytime a traveler comes, they, like, put on, like, a big song and dance, where, like, they put on cat ears and nonsense, or, like, turtle shells, and, like, do crazy things for the travelers. And, like, of course, and, like, no nation would ever fucking do that. That's, like, preposterous. But it's kind of like this, like, grandiose generalization of, like, things that actually happen. It's like, when, like, the French deposed their king, there was, like, a big conversation of, like, alright, what the fuck does it mean to be French now? And, like, I guess maybe... Well, there's a lot of French Revolution allusions in the show. But, like, that is one of them as, like, what the fuck do we do? Well, let's try and impress the travelers and have them see what's going on. So, like, no one acts like a human. That's right.
Oh, yeah, and it bugs me to some degree.
But, like, they're also, like, kind of supposed to be these kind of, like, surreal, abstract visions of kind of mass behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I don't have to like it.
Oh yeah, well in the new show, like they take these things like deadly serious, and like there's no abstraction going on at all, and it's just weird.
Yeah,
and like that, and that's like that is that like issue just taken up to 11.
Yeah, but what I find with both shows, technically more so the new one with the old one.
Yeah, well we can talk about like overlapping things.
How Alex had issues with those kind of things. I didn't really take that much issue with it, but just sometimes I just found it more ironically funny.
Oh, okay.
Well, like we are also like a group of people of like we are the classic like let's put on Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and laugh the fuck out of it.
Oh, we hunt and consume schlock.
Like Alex didn't get to this episode, but it's
the AI episode.
Yeah, where they say we have no purpose anymore and then jump off a cliff.
Why didn't you tell me about that? I would have seen it.
Because that's a problem. That's a good episode.
Oh, okay.
That's a good. Well, I don't think there is like a bad episode in any of these.
Yeah,
like, there's some I like more than others, but.
Oh, is this in the old one?
Yeah. This is the old one, yeah. Where like
is that like, episode? What was it?
Oh, I can't remember.
9?
Oh, okay.
9. That sounds about right. I can't remember if it comes after like the weird ass like library world she goes to.
I'm pretty sure that's after.
Yeah, that is after. Where like she goes like there's like a little house on like the side of the road, and like she discovers like there's AI there, and there's a whole bunch of shenanigans involving like what is the kind of typical things you do with AI, like what is humanity, like what are obligations, but then it also kind of gets into like the show often like gets back to like big grandiose national narratives and the kind of like things we tell ourselves about ourselves, even though they might not be true. Like these like grandiose, like I think like the most crystallized version, and this is just episode 3, just on my mind, where like they tell the country like, hey, the world's gonna end. They have no reason to believe that, but like they tell themselves that anyway because like that's and they also kind of find like a sense of value in that.
Oh, is that the one with the 2 priest guys?
That's like the 2 priest guys.
One of them's wrong, and then the other comes out and he's like, "Hey guys, actually,
I'm right. Yes, and then they just go like, we're done here."
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, cool, the world's gonna end," and then they just like walk off, basically.
But like, sort of like, I think to sort of give my basic sort of like ground level idea of like why I think like the old show is really successful, and we'll get into this more. I think this is like my graceful. I'll get into more things like Kino and like the other abominations that are in the new show. But like, this is a show that has like a very abstract and strange visual style. It's got like a very defined vision. Like the animation isn't always great, but like there are some great images that come from it.
Yeah, that reminds me, whenever I saw the most recent episode of the new show, which is the rehash of the origin story.
Yeah. Which I actually haven't seen that one, so you beat me to that punch.
Well, I went back and watched like the original origin story, and then the animation of like the father about to stab it.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah,
I know it's meant to be really weird. But it really reminded me of Surviving Edged Weapons.
Well, he also like because that's a world where everyone has lobotomy, everyone has like a shit-eating grin, and they're like comically trying to pull a knife out of someone.
Oh yeah.
What a very adult thing to do.
That line is funny.
That's the thing about like that. This show actually has charm and humor.
It's oozing charm.
But a lot of that is missing in the new one.
Yeah, but like it is like this is like a world where it's like there's like abstraction going on many levels. Like sometimes the show just presents you like this like giant like overexposed white background. And, like, everything is just kind of fragmented and strange. Like, I noticed this, there was, like, no sense of time progressing in this show.
Not really.
Like, for all intents, like, except for, like, the 2-part Coliseum episode, like, the show can take place in any order. We really have no sense, even within, like, individual episodes, that, like, the events we are seeing are happening concurrently. It is just a show, like, utterly detached from time itself. And that's, like, the design of the show is that, too. Like, Kino looks like Kino is without time. Like she rides a World War II motorcycle, and like she looks like something out of a steampunk world. But sometimes they'll go to like 70s abomination brutalist world where everyone has computers, or she'll go to a place that hasn't invented flying yet, and like things like that. There's no real sense of time, and that is deliberate, and that kind of adds like this like vague abstraction that kind of helps you buy things like, we built a dam to flood an entire country. And like there's also the idea of just like, because it's like a kind of a story that always comes back to storytelling and how like we interpret stories, that like a lot of times like Kino will just come to a place, someone will say like, this is the history of my country, and it is just that, it's a story. We're not always sure like what we're being told is actually true, and a lot of time it's not true.
It's kind of plopped on your lap. Really.
It just plopped on your lap, and like we're just kind of we're just kind of just like left in Kino's position of like, what do we do?
Yeah, I mean it's unclear. Well, I guess it's clear because this show isn't based in any reality.
Oh no, yeah, but
so
like
it's it's a World War II motorcycle, but World War II did not occur.
Yeah, there's not even something even resembling World War II.
Yeah, I'm not sure if any wars occur.
Yeah, no, there are wars. There's like an episode later where there's like a war that lasted 200 years, and like there's like shenanigans,
goofy things. But
there's like shenanigans based off of that, but like the new show has nothing even related to that. We are presented worlds, and we are just shown them like, oh yeah, this is real. These things exist. Like these people are supposed to act like humans. Like we are supposed to believe what everyone says. Like there was like no sense of like there's like stories about stories or like the kind of abstraction that makes these kind of tales work. Like this is a world that just like blandly presented to you in bland anime fashion, and so forth. And with that, what do you guys think of the new show?
Well,
you can start anywhere. You can start anywhere.
It's kind of like a roller coaster.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds about right. I think like episode 9 is like the greatest crystallization of like the series in a nutshell, where it's just like things happen, some of them mean something, some of them mean nothing, some of them are funny, some of them are dark, but none of them cohere, and you just get a general sense of like, oh, you have no idea what you're doing.
Pizza,
pasta, put it on. Oh, God.
Print it out and put it on.
Oh yeah, I think
JPEG pizza.
Yeah, JPEG pizza. Well, like, do we want to talk about the animation real quick? Because like we kind of alluded to it with like the old series. Like,
I guess before we get into it, just because I didn't really say anything.
Oh, certainly. Sorry.
Well. Oh no, that's fine. I just if you wanted me to respond, here's my response.
Yeah.
Well, before I get into it, like the old one seems like a bunch of fables, really.
Yeah, that sounds that's an accurate depiction of it.
Yeah, but anyway, the new one. So I've said it before, but I enjoyed the first episode. It felt fairly Kino-y.
Well, yeah, it's the most because like it comes down to like she comes to a place. It takes place just in that country. It's about a single thing, which is kind of like societal violence and the death penalty and nonsense like that. She comes there, people tell her stories. There's kind of like the sense of like one guy has like built mythology around him as like a murderer or something. And like so there's like that like stories about stories is in there. It's very Kino-esque, and that really works.
Yeah, I mean I really like that episode.
Yeah, I like it too.
And also because it was almost like, and I know the whole show is surreal.
Yeah.
But it's almost like believable enough that I could possibly see this happening.
Well, like we're gonna
if the right conditions arose.
Yeah, well, this is the thing about it. Like, I don't think that like any of the decisions that the new show makes are invalid per se.
Well, they're handled poorly.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing about it. You took the words right out of my mouth. That like there was no sense of like they quite understand the impact of the decisions they are making.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, having a death coliseum isn't in itself a bad idea. But having your pacifist Kino randomly cap some guy in the chest is kind of ruining your narrative.
Yeah, well, like, Matthew, do you have anything else like to add to that before I get into Kino?
Before I blow my load.
Before I blow my load. Oh, I have not blown my load yet. There is so much more.
I know there's more.
Yeah.
You go right ahead, John.
Okay.
Ooh, story time.
Okay. Well, this is the thing about it. Like, you haven't gotten to this episode yet, but if you were to continue watching, the next episode you would see would be like the 2-part Coliseum thing, which is what happens in episode 2 of the new series, where Kino goes to a country, there's like an insane king and so forth. Yeah. And, like, she has to participate in death games where, like, you don't have to kill, but, like,
But she just does anyway.
It's still death. Well, here's the thing about, like, in the original show, it's the 6th episode.
Okay.
We've already been with this character for 5 episodes, and we know, like, a few really essential things. But, like, we already know the 3-day rule, and we, like, already know that, like, she is, like, pretty militant. Like, she has a shitload of weapons, and just, like, it just, like, really, like, controls herself.
Yeah, well, I mean, militant in that she's got a set,
she's, like, and, like, she's, like, hell-driven to that. Yeah, like, she finds, like, great societal and, like, personal value in not being attached to anything, except for the talking motorcycle, which we can get to.
Yeah, I mean, she drills herself, but she only does it in the hopes that she never has to use it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about it. It's like, we get to, like, episode 2, I think is, like, this most important episode in the series, because we get down to, like, this is her moral code. She doesn't like killing, but goddammit, she will do it if you threaten her. And she can be kind of fucking scary and just fucking murder people if she wants to. And, like, that's a conflict that, like, comes up again, and that is something we play with in Coliseum, where she goes to the Death Coliseum and doesn't have to fight, but continues to fight regardless out of, like, some, like, vague idea of, like, there's kind of, like, that idea of, like, is she just being violent? Or, like, is she just trying... Is it, like, the 3 days thing again? Where it's, like, she just feels like she hasn't been here long enough? Or something like that. And there's some, like, a lot of things they play with there. In the new show, the second person she faces in this Death Coliseum, she just caps in the fucking chest.
Oh, yeah, she just murders him.
She just fucking murders someone.
Yeah, it almost felt random.
Well, it is random. Yeah. It is like, you're just like, because like you've already seen like a lot of the show probably you're like, okay, yeah, Kino's not gonna, oh shit!
Yeah, well, it's like, you had episode 1 where a guy actively shot at her.
And she just hid behind Hermes.
And she's like, oh, better hide behind my motorcycle.
Yeah, and poor Hermes.
Yeah, and then a guy who literally doesn't do anything to her. And she's like, well, I haven't shot a gun in a while. Bang, bang, dead now.
And like this version of...
Who the fuck are you?
Who the fuck? This version of Kino just seems like really cold and violent.
Oh yeah,
and like I'm not going to say that's an invalid choice, because like you look at Kino, how she's constructed, and it is easy to make this like a cold, calculating, kind of violent person.
And that's what the plebeians want.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that is. We are the fascists.
But the original isn't cold though. It's
well,
just,
that's the original
just kind of stands off from things.
Yeah,
there's a certain warmth.
Well, there's a certain warmth. Like she has like an excellent like voice actress. So, like honestly, the dub is actually pretty good.
In the dub too, yeah.
In the dub too, and like there's a general warmth and like how they animate her. There's kind of like a great care.
Except for Hermes, who sounds really weird in the dub.
Hermes is really weird. Yeah. Well, we can get to sort of like
hello, Kino.
well, like there.
I haven't gotten to the dub yet.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, well Kino sounds great.
Kino sounds great, and that's the most important thing, but everyone else ranges from alright to awful.
Oh yeah, Hermes, because like...
Hermes sounds like he's dying.
Yeah, Kino talks, I'm like, oh, this is what I expected. And then Hermes talks, and it's like, hello, Kino! I'm like, oh my god.
And it's really weird and off-putting.
Yeah, well, it sounds like he's talking through his exhaust. I mean, honest to God, it does.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah, it would, but
but it is like really off-putting.
Yeah, but if that was the first thing I saw, then maybe that'd be okay. But I saw the Japanese dub first,
and it gets you into a mindset. Yeah, well,
there's this third option, Kino.
Yeah, because in the Japanese voice acting, he's just normal.
He's just
He sounds fun. He's a little bit kind of like high pitched, I guess.
Yeah, high pitched. Well, it's kind of like cute robotic sidekick.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what you're supposed to get out of him. But like they kind of get back.
He sounds like a smoker in the tub.
To get back to violence.
Back to violence.
Get back to violence. I like violent Kino was not a bad artistic choice. The issue is like this show has like no idea what that means. There was no analysis of it. we are just shown Kino being violent and cold, and we're meant to think, well, isn't that cool? Like, we get to, I think the next episode after this is where, like, she goes, like, this giant, like, moving country.
Oh, yes.
Insert Howl's Moving Castle joke here.
Uh-huh.
And she becomes a sniper for them, and like there's just like the reason she did it was because like she just didn't want to pay a toll.
Is this in the new one?
Yeah, this is the new one.
Oh, jeez.
And like there's
stupid.
and it's like supposed to be like a cute little joke, and like there's just no analysis of like what like violent Kino means.
Maybe another show that might have worked.
Well, that's the thing, like, if there's, like, any because, like, when Kino is violent in the original, like, the show, like stops everything and goes, like, oh, shit, bad.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of restraint there.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of restraint. There's also, like, when she is violent, she's, like, actively shaken up by it.
Yeah, well, she's not happy about it.
Yeah, whereas in this, she always has, like, the anime version of a shit-eating grin, practically.
But no, it's because the anime fan base just wants to see the fight scenes with Kirito Clone 256.
Oh god, okay.
See him decapitate this woman.
Okay, let's get to what's his fucking name?
Who cares?
I mean Kirito Clone. I mean,
oh god,
I don't remember.
I can't remember his name.
SH something.
Nor do I care.
He's got a dog.
We're
gonna call him Dog Boy.
Dogman.
We're gonna call him Dogman, and Dogman's in the original, but he is like, he is a part of that one like Coliseum arc. Then he's gone.
Good.
Yes.
And like, one thing about the original is that like, as much as we can say, like you can argue me about this, I think like the original show is always about Kino in some capacity. Like the worlds we keep visiting with her are usually worlds that kind of like analyze something about like Kino as we've instructed. Like the AI episode does kind of turn into like Kino saying, "I don't fucking need anyone. Get the fuck away from me." And like just and being like someone who's just like unable to make any connections outside of the cute talking motorcycle.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, everything's been about Kino.
Everything's been about Kino. There's also like and there's also like episodes that like their base goal is analyzing Kino's morality or just like how she's been constructed. And so what the new show does is pretty much say like, oh, this is boring.
Oh yeah, I saw episode 8. And from going from episode, 2 to episode 8 was baffling.
Oh, it's baffling. And, anytime we cut to Kirito Clone 269C4, it is really jarring. Because, the show just doesn't know what to do with him, because so often these things are constructed around, Kino's morality and Kino's journey. As you would. Please castrate me.
Yeah, well, I got to episode 8, and I saw, okay, here's dog person, here's his dog, here's whoever the fuck this is.
Who is
T, I think? T. There's a little girl who has a satchel full of grenades, I guess. As you do.
But in episode 4, we go to, a ship country. It's an entire country on a ship. On a boot. And it's one of the more interesting episodes because, because at first you get oh, maybe they're going to do something interesting with Kirito Clone 29374. And he comes there and he's very this place is awful. I'm going to get a rebellion and that sort of thing. And be like that. And we meet one of the guards who doesn't speak.
Cool.
And that's the little girl who has grenades.
Oh.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid. But, the end of that episode is that, Kirito Clone 29374 attempts to, liberate it, and he tries, to undermine it and undermine the authority, and, all, the quote-unquote peasants of the boat say, what the fuck did you just do? You ruined our lives, you outsider scum. Which is kind of analysis on when, we, try to go to places in the Middle East and say, we are here to liberate you, and then just fuck everything up so hard. And that's really interesting. But, that's also something to say that, the show doesn't know how to connect that to any of its characters. That's a kind of thread that'd be a really interesting thing to follow with Kirito Clone. But it never comes back again.
Yeah. So we saw Grenade Girl.
Mm-hmm. We see Grenade Girl, and also Grenade Girl stabs Kirito Clone 2974 in the most comedic way possible, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, so I saw those two, and they're in their hotel.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, where the fuck is Kino?
Well, that's the thing about it, is that, like, there are, like, so many episodes where, like, you go to and it's like, am I gonna get to see Kino?
Yeah, like, where is
am I gonna get to see Kino? And, like, and that's not invalid.
I mean, I guess.
It's easy to say, like, Kino's journey, where's Kino?
Well, yeah, but if you're gonna show characters that aren't Kino, they better be good.
Well, that's another thing, is that, like, but also, like, even when we get Kino, the show doesn't know what to do with her. Like, all, like, the interesting things you could do with her are, like, either just, like, not alluded to well enough to get a full episode. Like, the fucking, like, 10th episode is a remake of the last episode of the original show. Which is, like, which is an episode that makes no sense about the context of what we've seen before. Like, it makes no sense if you haven't seen the origin episode.
Yeah.
It makes no sense if you, like, don't have any idea, if you don't have a strong idea of, like, the 3-day rule. And this show does not, like, establish either Kino's moral code or the 3-day rule in any, like, meaningful way. If anything, it, like, actively subverts those things in, like, in a way it does not comprehend and cannot analyze. But what are some other issues y'all had with it?
Oh, some other issues.
Some other issues, because I think I've like, because I think I've pretty much like said enough to my illusions that like so much of the original show is like wrapped around Kino and like her construction, and like this is a show that's just like not interested in Kino at all. So like the heart of the original show just completely thrown away and replaced with things they still don't even seem interested in.
Let's see. I think this may not even be a problem with the new show, but just something I came across.
Yeah.
Is that since we were told to like marathon this, I think I kind of got like a Kino's journey like burnout.
By the time it was
the new season.
Interesting. Well,
so,
that's
like,
interesting.
Even like the better episodes of the new season, I was just like.
Well, there's a formula. Kino will come to a place, someone will tell her its history, or she will see something really awful. Then, like, they go away, and Hermes asks, well, what was that shit? And they have, like, a little conversation. That's kind of, like, the general thing about it. But, like, but sometimes I just genuinely don't know where this show will go at times. Like, sometimes you think, like, okay, that's a clear conclusion, but then, like, it'll subvert that in a really interesting way. Whereas, like, the new show just seems to have ADHD. It just, like, jumps from one thing to another, one idea to another, and, like, has no idea what to comprehend. Let's get back to, like, the episode 8 here, because I think it is, like, the worst of any of these.
It's quite bad.
Because, like, okay, Kirito Clone comes to a place. It's America.
I think
so they go to a hotel and they go to a motel and have pizza, and everyone's wearing like Texas Ranger uniforms. I think this is like the Japanese vision of America, which is also just such a weird thing to see from Kino's journey, which is something that already is just so fragmented and abstract. To see like our culture filtered through that.
No, leave the Americanized or the Japanese version of America to Earthbound.
or Full Metal or Wolf Metal Chaos.
What's Wolf Metal Chaos?
Well, it's a game that FromSoft made, for one thing.
Ooh.
But also, it is a version of America where it is completely normal for not only a senator, but a vice president and the current president to have mechas.
Do you fuck with the senator?
No. Yeah,
but he has nano
machines, son.
No, but the vice president and the president get into a mecha battle.
Alex, you are selling me something that I want.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's so stupid, but I love it.
But here's the problem: like this new version of Kino's Journey can never have something that fun in it.
No.
It can never, but like, here's the thing about it is that like I think it's about school shootings, and like because.
It's about radio waves.
Well, here's the thing about it is that, like, okay.
And slavery, I think.
Okay, let me just explain this, because like this show also wants to explain things, which just makes everything make even less sense. Because like when Kino was told like an origin story in the original, it's always like so vague and like clearly like some like national narrative like drawn up and like passed down. It's like it doesn't. It's not like trying to give you like a literal explanation as to why these things are the way they are. It's to give you like here's an event that happened. This is how we responded to it, or like this is like our tradition, and things like that. Whereas in this, they tried like to give you explanations as to why. Actually, that's not even the case in this, because like we're revealed like the radio waves are a scam.
Yeah, they weren't there all along. But that guy's eyes were weird, so obviously something must have happened.
Yeah, well, I think that's also a case where like there's a lot of like visual coding in this show that just like that just like goes nowhere and like has no purpose. Like the Pickelhalbas und Iron Crosses in the Colosseum episode.
Yeah.
Which I think there's like, oh, militaristic society, Prussia.
Oh, well, just Japan loves those helmets and overcoats. I mean,
they love Germany because like the westernized Japanese state was based on Germany, and they said like, all right, what's a state like? This is kind of a tangent, but like, okay, what's a state we can make that allows us to keep kind of like authoritarian emperor? Ooh, Germany. We're just gonna steal Bismarck. Can we steal that? Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I saw like Xenoblade 2. That's every single card is just Germany. Like,
everyone has Pickelhalba.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if you want.
Well, I like Pickelhalbas, so I don't mind.
They're iconic.
They are iconic, but this we don't have Pickelhalbas in this. It's Japanese America, and like
of course everybody's Walker Texas Ranger.
Walker Texas Ranger, but like in this, like Kirito Clone comes across a man who has just decapitated a student of his in like a violent rampage. Which is like a really weird metaphor for school shootings.
I don't remember. We shoot people. We don't decapitate them.
Yeah. But like it's sort of the thing where it's like they then say like, oh, this is the result of like we once had a slave populace that like we put microchips in. We had like we had like radio towers that like control them.
That was really convoluted.
And it's really convoluted. I'm just like, what? No, exactly, no one cares.
Yeah, well, the slaves never come back up.
So
why even bother having slaves?
Yeah, well, it's also a bullshit explanation because, like, you can't pass down microchips.
Oh, yeah, and someone even mentions that.
Yeah, but, like, the episode almost takes an interesting turn because it comes to, like, it turns out, like, the radio waves aren't real.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of something that's, like, it's kind of just something that's said, and what it actually is just kind of, like, an excuse for, like, an excuse for, like, allowing these people just to stay there and be crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in a way to excuse, which is kind of like, which is a metaphor for our thing of, like, guns don't kill people, people kill people. It's like a way of, like, punting issues down the road.
I guess.
But, like, it's just filtered through, like, such a strange and convoluted lens that, like, and it's also then to be said that, like, and, like, this is something that doesn't happen to us very often because we're Americans, but this is, like, something we are seeing our culture filtered through Japan, which, well, Matthew, you watch anime a lot more than we do. Is this something you see a lot of, like, American culture just kind of filtered through us through, like, a very peculiar lens?
I don't know, because a lot of the anime I've seen are just mostly just, like, in a fantasy world. Or,
yeah. Well, that's typically like especially I didn't expect it from fucking Kino's journey to see my culture like filtered through me like this, but it kind of feels like, all right, this world's gonna be America. What do we know about America? They have motels. They have like main streets. That's a like visual thing we can go off. They have pizza. And they have school shootings.
Yeah,
and they don't do, and it's very strange because they don't do anything about their school shootings.
Yeah, don't mind any other cultural facets of America. It's obviously all we do is just shoot each other.
All we do is just shoot each other, and like
we have no other culture.
I don't think this is a terrible explanation of American culture, to be honest.
Oh no, it isn't.
But like it's also just kind of something like it's like, ooh, you're kind of missing a few points here, buddy.
Yeah, well,
which is just kind of something that would happen.
Yeah, well, it's funny to have it be, it's the radio waves, influencing people, and then it turns out it's not.
Yeah.
But then then the guy at the end, like, I don't know, for shits and giggles, I guess, at the end, your Kirito clone guy, just says, "Oh, there's a new one, so you can still be shitty." It's like, why would you tell them that?
Because like Kirito clone and like her fucking and his fucking sidekick turn psychotic. And, like, hold a baby hostage with a fucking grenade.
Oh, yeah.
Take like, one of, like, the Walker, Texas Rangers at gunpoint. Yeah. Or, like, or is it knife point? I don't fucking care.
It doesn't matter.
Whatever point. They drop him off and say, like, we made the radio towers worse and you were all going to kill each other. Yeah. And he just, like, drives off. And he says to us, like, aha, they're going to find out that it didn't. That's not what happened. That's not what we did because no one's going to go crazy because it doesn't exist. And they will find out.
Yeah, but they haven't done that up to this point.
Nope. And it's like, it's just another case of, like, characters being cold and violent, and, like, the show thinks it's funny, and, like, plays jangly guitar music over it.
Oh, I mean, that's that episode's version of Kino starting a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah, the bloodbath! Shit!
Yeah, Kino
the bloodbath!
Hey, everybody, kill each other!
Yeah, well, like, here's the thing, like, that happens to an extent in the original, where, like, in the original, she kills, like, Insane King, who actually, Insane King gets a lot more development in the original. And is
more than none?
Yeah, except more than none, where, like, there's, like, a fascinating scene where, like, he talks to, like, Kino and somebody else, and, like, says, like, please, like, help me. I'm insane, and my country is going to ruin. And, like, there's, like, weird things like that in it. So, like, the king is just far more fleshed out, but, like, the king is dead.
Okay.
King gets killed by Kino, that happens. And, like, there is then, like, Kino says, like, okay, what do we do here? Alrighty, you are going to, like, have this Coliseum again, but, like, you can't hurt the lower classes, because the lower classes are a huge thing in the original. Like, we go down to, like, the slum lords and see that, like, one of the soldiers lives in the slums. And she says, like, okay, you can't hurt any of them. If you just want to leave, you can do that. And, like, she sets, like, a bunch of parameters as to, like, to make it as civil a death match as one could have. While still, like, I don't think they quite... there's still, like, kind of analysis like, this is still a pretty violent thing to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's...
And, like, we never see them just literally devolving into a bloodbath in the Coliseum.
That's Kino actively trying to make something better.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, it's, fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. There was, like, a great clarity around violence in the original. Violence is something that is brought up, it's analyzed, like... No one dies in that show without analysis and about, like, what the fuck just happened? Whereas in this, people die all the time, people are cold and violent, and sometimes it's played off as a joke. Like, the death bloodbath is then followed by, like, a cute little line of Kino to one of the guards that pretty much reads... Cute little line from saying, like, if you wish to live, you should leave. And she leaves with a shit-eating grin.
Yeah, well, Kino starting that riot was basically just akin to somebody in Grand Theft Auto crashing a blade into a building for shits and giggles. Like, there's absolutely zero reason.
There was no analysis. You're right. There
was no reason. It was just, wouldn't it be fun if everybody kills each other, and then they do.
Well, you said this before. Like, do you think that, like, because this is like making me like, do you think that, like, the anime community wants, like, there to be, like, oh, look, it's violent and, like, blood and titillation and that sort of thing? Do you think that's, like, an active thing people are looking for? Because if that is the case, that's really worrying.
Well, definitely not fans of the original show like you.
Well, no, but there's 10, like, hardcore fans like me out there in the world.
Well, I don't think so, really. I think that's a very depressing outlook for one thing.
Yeah, well,
I don't think it's true for another.
I just watched a Star Wars movie where, like, the rebels were fascists, and, like, so, like, I'm just ultimately like, oh my god, are we the fascists? Are we the ones who want violence and things like that?
No, I think they want to see, like, they want to see cool stuff. Like, I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, but they don't want to see just, murder for the sake of murder.
Yeah, but, like, or maybe that's just the case of, like, the people behind the show said, like, okay, you have iconic imagery, like girl on motorcycle. She has a shitload of guns. She doesn't use the guns enough in the original.
Although, then again, whenever I find, like, my mother watching, like, Game of Thrones or some other show really similar to that, that's just the majority of what I find. Just, like, either, like, death or, like, someone making out with someone.
Well, especially like Game of Thrones had like the infamous sex position at the beginning, which I think is an abomination, and things like that. But like, I'm not saying this is like a Japanese problem as per se. I think because there's also something to be said about like how much the people behind these shows like think of like an American audience. Though maybe that's not true because like I don't know how like anyone would like look at episode 8 and go like, yeah, that's fine for an American audience.
And my mother doesn't watch anime.
Oh
so.
no.
Yeah. Well, I think what they like so much about Game of Thrones, and I'm just guessing because I've only seen an episode or two, but I think what's so captivating about all like the violence is that there's an inherent consequence behind everything.
Yeah,
and so it's like this guy died, but it's also important that they died.
They were a main character, Alex. A main fucking character.
Yeah, and of course, after you see them die, a main character in quotes die 50 times, you start to lose the illusion.
Well, Game of Thrones is boring and I hate it, but.
Oh, tell us how you really feel, John.
Look, man, I don't like the sugarcoat things. I like the shit on these things.
That's fine. I'm just saying it's very blunt.
I am just currently in a place right now that like I just see like violence being normalized a lot. And like to see that being reflected in media is just a terrifying thing to me. And to see like Kino's journeys of all things. Like this like super meditative show that like has lots of ideas about violence and not just like individual violence but like societal violence and what that does, and like to see like there's like the first episode in the series analyzes that like it's about like the death penalty and like an entire like nation coming together to murder a dude.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I actually like that.
And then and that's really fascinating. And then just to see it drop that, and we just see like Kino like the supposed like moral compass of the series go about and do super like and do super violent things like just cap a dude in the chest.
Yeah,
it's just really worrying to me. Also, I just don't think the people behind the show know what they're doing. Because like the original show has a fucking vision. The original show, there is a coherent visual, narrative, and like sound style that is consistent and coherent throughout the series. This show just jumps all over the place whilst like all being grounded by like vague anime prettiness.
I give you episode 9.
Yes, which is a case where it's like Kino becomes like anime chef for
Wait, what?
That's why I'm a pizza pasta.
Oh, okay.
Where she becomes chef, and like it becomes a plot point where like she kills people with cooking because she uses a shitload of peppers.
Well, I didn't think it was killing.
Well, it's killing people, but like
it's like giving them like bad diarrhea.
Why?
I have no idea, Alex. Okay. I have no idea. It is one of the strangest things I've ever seen.
It would be funny.
I don't know. And like the strangest thing about that, like that is in the same episode as like a really interesting like opening arc. Not an opening arc. This is like after the opening, where Kino talks to a man in a country that has like a virtue system.
Yeah, I like that part.
Where like everyone like which is great because it's like all Kino-esque about nation and society, and we kind of just see like Kino's reaction to it. Because I think it's really important that it's not just about like the countries themselves presented to us. That like we always see Kino reacting to them. I think like there's like a great shot in like episode 0 of like just Kino just staring at this giant fuck off tower and just just like she just doesn't know what to make of it, and neither do we, and it's great.
Well, there's nothing to make of it.
Yeah, there's nothing to make. Well, there is, but that's spoilers.
I mean, of the tower itself.
Of the tower, the tower. Well, it's like it's how they worship the tower. That's the point
it's the implication it has on society.
Yeah, which is the point. But like we get to this, and there's like a virtue system where it's like all good deeds you do are like given a numeric value, and so like you can get like social standing. And she talks to someone who was once the president. And like just the way these like all of these things are built around numeric value, he now believes he has the like obligation to kill someone as like an exchange for this, for like all like the virtue points he's built up, and it's super dark and super interesting, and like he has like these like super like overexposed like death glasses all the time, and like he threatens Kino with a knife, and that is super interesting. and this is the same episode as, like, anime chef Kino, like, giving people diarrhea with, like, fried chicken. I am not exaggerating.
Oh, I'm sure you're not. I don't think that can be made up.
You can't make this up. And, like, the show just has, like, no idea what it is. I think it all comes down to also, like, a visual style, as far as, like, it is just, like, bland and anime-ish. Like, it has more money, but they don't know what to do with any of it. Like, well, what do you think of, like, the visual style? Because, like, the original show, it's, like, quaint and, like, kind of cheap at times.
Yeah, I mean, the way it looks, like, I think it's fine.
Oh, like the new show?
Or the old show, and I guess the new show too, somewhat of an extent.
Yeah, well, like, the old show, like, has its issues, but I think it always has, like, a coherent, pretty interesting style, and sometimes there are, like, gorgeous images that come out of that show. Whereas, like, I don't think there's anything like that in the new show. Yeah. I think, like I said, it's just bland, anime-ish, pretty.
Yeah.
But that does remind me of the origin story. Like, you know how whenever, like, they explain to, like, the children about how they get turned into adults at 12,
and there's, like, the giant, like, lecture hall, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a giant lecture hall. In the new one, it's just in a dark room with red lighting. Just like, oh, this is evil.
This is evil. Yeah. Well,
hello, children.
Hello, children. Well, like, to see that, like, when the, well, like the problems of this series just come out in such full force when, like, they tried to remake original episodes, because they just haven't done any of the legwork that made those original episodes super interesting and like, really compelling. Like the fourth episode is what you realize, like, oh wait, this is her version of nostalgia. It's like her parents trying to murder her and, like, having to flee her country. This is, like, her version of nostalgia. But, like, you see these new episodes, and you just realize, like, there was no sense of, like, morality, there was no sense of character development, because, like, they do, like, the quote-unquote final episode of the original in this, and you realize, like, oh yeah, this means nothing now. Because, like, we haven't established, like, what Kino's like, we haven't established, like, her, like, moral code, we haven't really established anything about her that would make this episode not only just compelling, but coherent. It just becomes, like, a kind of, like, it just becomes something that happens, and I guess we should feel sad about it. Oh no, people die. just go on that, like, just like, I think the animation in this, like, new series is so much worse, because, like, in the original, like, she's, like, really distraught, and, like, they really, like, animate her to look like, holy shit.
That is true.
There's, like, she is, like, they go all negative and weird with it. There's, like, she really takes this hard, and this, she just kind of looks at it. Bland, like, open eyes, like, I think...
Oh, well, no one looks like
although in the original, I was a little confused as to what was happening at first.
Yeah, well, what, like, with the volcano erupting and all that nonsense?
Yeah, and, like, like you said, it was all, like, black and white.
All black and white, yeah. Well, like, the whole, like, well, sometimes, like, the show is... I think that's pretty effective. I mean, it's like...
it was effective, but at first I was just like, wait, what?
What's going... Well, that's kind of like it's kind of supposed to be like, anytime we see something happy in these series, we should know, like, what shit goes wrong?
Yeah. Plus, I think it also has to do with, like, the video quality.
The video quality. Oh yeah. Well, something. I think. Did you guys notice, like, the VR scan lines?
I did notice that.
Okay.
I don't think I did, actually.
Whereas, like, every episode of, like, the original series has, like literal, like, video scan lines on it, as if, like, you're, like, watching it on, like, an old CRT monitor. And, like, some people really hate that, but I kind of really like that, because it kind of adds... first of all, it's kind of a sense of, like, we are watching a story about stories, and so forth, kind of adds, like, that metatextual thing.
Oh, I didn't notice.
And it's also... Well, it's kind of subtle. Some people really... Like, anal people notice it like me. But, like, it's also a kind of thing where, like, it's just also, without time, like CRT monitors are just something from, like, a much later period than this, and, like... And so, like, there, you also just get that sense, like, maybe we're just, like, watching, like, random videos and things just out of order. And so, and that's neat. But again, like, that's a visual style. They tried.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, the animation in the new one isn't necessarily bad. There's just nothing really overly iconic or interesting about it.
Yeah, well, like there's like nothing interesting. Well, I think there's just like a Japanese brain trust out there that's like only job is to paint like very gorgeous vistas and like gorgeous backgrounds because you get the feeling like oh my god, this is gorgeous. Why is it here? Well, we're just gonna. Well, I guess I'm just coming down to like. I guess I'm trying like to kind of like establish things about animation in this because like so much of like what we think is good animation is like oh it's smooth and it's flowing and like the backgrounds are detailed and like if you look at it purely from that like the new show is better animated but like there's just so much more to get out of the original like the Kino's design is so much better in the original and there's just so much more to get from it. Like the world, I think that like the worlds and how abstracted they are just so much more compelling and interesting than like photorealistic painterly stuff we see in like the new one.
Yeah, because whenever it comes to like graphics or colors, I usually tend to prefer things that are like more like colorful.
Yeah, colorful like that, and like sometimes like this new show has like gorgeous like sun-kissed colors and like. And it's just like, sometimes you just go like, wow, that's a gorgeous backdrop. And wow, those are gorgeous colors. But it also means nothing.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe that's my argument is that. I'm kind of disappointed by like how terrible the new series is. Because like I thought I would be able to have like a far more nuanced conversation about this. Or like I can like compare and contrast and see like what are the issues of like. Or here's the thing, like what are like issues in the new series you think the old series shares?
Oh, well, I already said mine.
Well, which like no one feels like a person.
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah, well,
I already blew my load, John.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's like and especially what really got me, and I know everybody's lobotomized in this episode.
Yeah.
But someone getting stabbed and everybody saying, "Oopsie daisy." It's like,
well, that's also supposed to be like a darkly funny thing where it's like. That's what
I think you should pull the knife out.
That's a very adult. Yeah. That's a very adult thing to do.
Yeah, I know that's supposed to be funny.
Yeah, but I think that works in the original because again, it is just so weird and abstracted, and sometimes like the imagery of it is just so cosmic.
Yeah, they don't have that in the new one.
They don't have that in the new one, and it's just like everyone is like, you're supposed to take this serious. This is supposed to be like a real like this. They are trying to apply rules to a world where like the only rules should be with Kino, and Kino has no rules in the new one. There's like a complete reversal of obligations here. So like I think we've reached the end. And I just pray to God that like we haven't just like like just said like the old show is better because the new show is different.
Oh, no, it's not just because it's different. It's because it shows, well, for something that's supposed to take the original and kind of build off of it, it doesn't even set the foundation and tries to just slap wood at the foundation.
Let's make it more colorful.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, let's make it better. What if Kino is cool and they throw a plank on the sand of the beach? And there's nothing there already. You haven't established Kino yet. You haven't established Hermes yet. And they're just, I don't know.
They're just objects.
Yeah, you've got your me Mario Kart character on their bike. I mean, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about it. I remember discussing just like there was a point in like episode like I think it's 5.
Of the new one or the old one?
Of the new one. Where, like, Kino, like, first of all, there's, like, a kind of cute scene where, like, she goes and meets someone. She meets, like she goes, like, towards a house of, like, what was once a favorite traveler and, like, talks to a fucking motorcycle because the motorcycle's talking this.
Well, everything is... Well, things that we need to talk.
Yeah, things that we need to talk. And then after that, she meets someone at an inn. Who we as like people who have seen the original know that, oh wait, this person has the same origin story as Kino. Going to inherit an inn, doesn't want to inherit the inn, wants to escape. That's Kino's origin story. But like we haven't seen even like any kind of reference to that in the new show. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, are we supposed to be building off the original? Is this like a reboot, or is it just kind of some kind of like vague thing that like still thinks the original exists, but then like there were already like, what is it like? It's now 3 episodes in the new show that are just remakes of old episodes.
Yeah, so far it's 3.
So I think it's just like, oh, it's just a bad reboot.
Yeah, because whenever I was first going into the new season, I thought it was going to be more along the lines of a sequel.
Kind of a sequel, yeah. Well, which is kind of I think it advertised itself as a reboot, but like reboot kind of means nothing anymore because like we have like so much that like calls back to other like media and like everything about, and like there's also the idea that like everything references everything, shared universes, blah blah blah. And I'm curious, like, is this like going off that logic? No, we are supposed just to forget everything. Like, Kino is a completely different person in this. Like, Hermes has no character. Hermes is just is a literal object in this. They try to develop Kirito clone, but there's nothing there.
No.
And like they tried to.
T.
God, I hate T.
Oh, I only saw one episode of T, and I hate her.
I hate her. God. Yeah. So yeah, I am.
And Dogman is dog.
Dogman is dog.
Yeah.
Dogman is dog.
Dog is dog.
But yeah, I've been. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that I was disappointed by something I love.
Oh no!
I guess I shouldn't be. Actually, like, you know what?
I'm feeling the same thing with Xenoblade 2.
Oh, yeah.
I played enough of the original Xenoblade that I can even, say, oh, this isn't as good as the original.
Yeah, well, like, this is the thing is that, like, I hold, like, the original Kino's Journey on a pedestal. I think it is, like, a perfect little thing that has just, like, a bunch of charm and is really intelligent and has just, like, a fascinating character at the heart of it and has, like, a really interesting style. And, like, this just comes to that and just, like, chucks it all away, but has nothing to replace it with. And, like, still, and both wants to, like, try and forge its new path, but yet, like, constantly comes back to the original.
It's like Star Wars.
Just like Star Wars. Well, actually, I think
it's everywhere.
Actually,
you can't escape the Star Wars.
Actually, well, like, actually,
you really can't.
I kind of compared this in my mind to. Haven't you guys seen Black Mirror?
No.
Black Mirror is like this kind of Twilight Zone-esque anthology series that like tries to analyze like certain parts of society in like single episode formats. And like I think it compares to Twilight Zone, but I kind of like I'm kind of comparing the new Kino's Journey to that because like these are two shows that are just like ultra episodic and have like a great eye on like societal woes and like giant like geopolitical and socioeconomic themes. And you know what? I think Kino's Journey, for all its failings, is a little bit interesting. Like, I think the source material is interesting enough that, like, you can't, even though you've diluted it so much, there is still something interesting. There are still, like, interesting episodes in this. Like, there's, like, I think it's, like, episode, I can't remember what episode. It's the episode with, like, the slave girl. And, like, that episode is flawed to hell, and Kino's in it for only, like, 1 minute, which is infuriating. But that is that is an interesting episode that, like, talks about, like, religion and, like, religion and sort of, like, worldviews and, like, general, like, cultural fusions as, like, there's, like, one, like, sympathetic slaver who, like, talks to her. And, like, that episode is just really interesting, and, like, I don't know really what, like, to come from it, which I really like. But then you also just get, like, episode 2, or episode 8, or episode 9, where you just get to see, like, they have no idea what they're talking about.
Well, even episode 8, I think, had an interesting idea.
Well all of these, like, there was an interesting idea in all of these. Which is why I think it, like, has more value than, like, say, like, I think, like, Black Mirror is a far more technically put-together show, and is far more, like, competent, and far more, like, coherent and put together. But I also think it's less interesting than this. I also, like, there's, like, from what Black Mirror I've seen, I haven't seen a lot of it. But, like, there's, like, an episode on social media, which is, like, the moment you see, like, this world, you know exactly where you're going. And it pretty much goes exactly where you're going. Whereas, like, I don't always know where the fuck this show's going.
What, the old or the new? Or
the new show. Well, the old show is that too. Well, I think the old show is just something I get to recommend without qualification because I think it's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
The masterpiece.
And I think I get to like the recommend that without qualifications. Whereas like with the new show, I have to like recommend it in the most like tacit way possible and with like a bunch of strings attached.
Yeah, I mean, even with the old one, I kind of wish there was a bit more of an overarching goal.
Yeah, I've thought about that, and like I don't think there isn't one. I don't. That's not to say there was a goal, but like I also think that like putting an end to this would come to a far less satisfying conclusion than what you already imagined. Like Kino herself is a character that is like both something like really defined and really eloquent as like a screen presence, but is also like a lot of an enigma. Like we really don't know that much about her. Like we know where she comes from. We know she got training from someone. We know nothing about her. We don't know how.
Until the new season.
we have no idea how old she is or how much training she does. Like the design itself is ageless. Like there's like so much about her like we don't know, and I think that's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing that like this show like does not shove conclusions down you and does not try like to give us too much and like tries to retain this enigma. So like I think if you try to put like an end goal to it, and the first season kinda has an end goal per se of like where like we kind of establish as to like why Kino has like this rigorous like 3-day cycle schedule. And I think that's all you need. Like, I think, and as far as, like, I can understand, like, maybe, like, linking these episodes together, but I kind of like how it's without time. That it's just so surreal and, like, without time. So, like, I understand, like, the need to do that, and I understand your point, but I also just kind of, I want it to be, like, vague and just unending and, like, without a lot of connections to itself. I think that's a lot more compelling than, like, it being more coherent, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I guess what I was thinking of more along the lines of like, okay, there's like you keep the same overall story. You know, she wants to just travel places.
Yeah, just travel places, like, travelogue, social commentary.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, I want to hit these places. You know, so it's like I want to hit 12 places at some point, and then you say, okay. Well, I'm going to these places. Oh, something tries to stop me. Whether that's something physically actually tries to stop her, or oh, I want to stay here so bad, but I need to go.
Yeah, well, like that
might have been.
I guess that's kind of like I guess like what you were imagining is like what if like we took the original and tried like to make it something that goes in chronological order, because that's kind of what it already is, where she just kind of like goes place to place and like. There's kind of a goal when she goes to places. Like, oftentimes it's begin like, I want to go to this place because this person told me about it, or like, they've told me this place is like cruel. Like, in the final episode, they say, this place is cruel to travelers. I want to see it. And like, things like that. But I think what you want to see is something like, you want to see that, but like, you want to see a resolution to that.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, and I understand that thing.
Not even just like, oh, it's all over. Just like, hey, what did you think of all these places?
Well, yeah, well, sort of. Like, you want it to be more of like, what is the journey? Like, why the fuck are we doing this? I understand that reasoning. I just think it's like far more interesting, like just like completely like vague and nebulous and just out of complete order, and there is no resolution. Because I think that's also just kind of the point of the show. That like there's like things just happen and like we interpret them and we watch them, but we're never going to be given answers. And like I think that's like kind of narrative comes with that. Matthew, do you have anything to sort of add to that or?
No, I think I more agree with John in this case.
Okay, but so like, do you guys like have any like concluding thoughts on the old show, new show?
Yeah, I definitely understand why you hold it to such a high up regard.
Okay, and like I'm not expecting you to like immediately go and like put it on a pedestal like I do.
Well, yeah. Well, I saw the show and it's like, yeah, I could see why John would like
this. And that's all I want.
And I mean, and I liked it too.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad y'all got something out of this other than like, God, John dragged me into this shit.
Yeah. And I can also certainly see why you're disappointed in the new one.
Yeah, because it's a bad show.
It's just objectively bad.
It's an objectively bad show that doesn't know what the fuck it wants.
Yeah, you could have called it Spleenos Perny and it would have made more sense. I mean, seriously. It has nothing to do with the actual show. Oh, I'm riding my Harley named Kermies. I was going to go for the easy joke, but I decided not to.
And on that note,
my motorcycle spermers.
I think you could say herpes.
Oh, you can say that.
That's another joke.
That's a solid one.
I think it is time for us to end. I think Thank y'all so much for coming on. It has been a pleasure to have you, because like neither of you have been on this podcast before.
No, I haven't.
I've been on it snippets.
You have been a disembodied voice that has showed up in outtakes, but like Matthew, you are a new opinion.
For the 2 people watching, let me know if you want me to return.
Sometimes we don't even get to. Oh. I mean, like, if we need to do more, I mean, like, we can do, like, a Pokemon movie episode, and, like... And, like, I would be fucking all for that, for us to just, like, tear into, like, these just weird corporate abominations.
Oh, sign me up. I want to talk about lava penises.
Well, guys, if you want to hear about Pokemon lava penises...
Comment down below!
Comment down below!
And also Ash's adamantium skeleton.
And the alternate non-existent Pokemon dimension.
Yeah, and Hiroshima.
We are getting into things that we do not have the bandwidth to get into. And thusly, thank you for listening.
That's only a preview of what might come later.
I hate you.
I hate you and everything you stand for. Your opinion is an abomination and you must leave my house.
Yeah, you're wrong and you should feel wrong.
You're watching this video. Dislike if you disagree with any of us.
Have I blown my load yet?
I don't know, have you?
I don't know how much you're packing.
I don't know how much you have. Are you dry yet?
I need a break. Really important. Hello? What are you doing? Oh, it's fine. You didn't even shut the door. Ow.
Should I pause?
What? Oh no, we're still going to keep going. This is the magic of editing, Alex.
We're just going to ship this off to Tyler.
This is going to be an outtake.
Okay.
We will hear it regardless. I'm not going to really... Well, actually, I'm not quite sure. I really don't do hosting duties all that often on the show. I kind of just, like, stare into the difference and let Tyler do his thing until... Well, we're already recording.